All right, we'll just wait a couple of seconds for all the streams to connect. And then we will go.
The awkward pause in the beginning.
Yeah, it's connected. It's going to 3 platforms confirmed now.
Yeah, I just got one. I just Facebooked live.
All right, I think we're good to go. So we'll
Harley,
get started. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone to today's Executive Edge Live panel. Today we're talking about time freedom for today's leaders and helping people lead at a higher level with the right people and the right systems in place. We've got an amazing panel together here today, and I wanted to just welcome everyone here and thank you for joining us. This is hosted by Workergenics. I'm Harley Green. I'm the CEO and founder of Workergenics. We help executives and leadership teams stay focused on high impact activities by delegating the rest to highly skilled AI-leveraged ultimate executive assistants. Today's conversation is going to be all about one of the most valuable assets for any leader, their time. We're diving into how to create real time freedom with the right people, systems, and support so you can lead at a higher level without the burnout. I'm honored to be joined by 4 powerhouse leaders who live and teach this every single day. First off, we have Mike, who is the co-founder of Better Than Rich. He's built a 7-figure business that runs without him. He's a creator of Time Rich and leader of GSD Intensives, helping owners systemize sales, referrals, and hiring so the business doesn't depend on them. Next, we've got Robert, who has over 15 years of leading global and national teams. He's the developer of People First methodology that unlocks workforce potential and turns small changes into bottom line breakthroughs. And Michelle helps businesses fully integrate EOS and Entrepreneur Operating System across all layers, driving accountability, harmonizing operations, and installing permanent integrators for long-term success. And last but not least is Cathy, who specializes in building systems and cultures that help leaders thrive without the sacrifice, empowering them to reclaim their time and lead with purpose. Thank you all for being here. How's everyone on the panel doing today?
Doing great. Excited to be here.
Thanks for having
me.
us.
Excited.
Awesome. Well, the first question I have for the panel, anyone can feel free to jump in after I ask the question here, is what does time freedom mean to you personally, and why is it so critical for today's leaders?
I'll jump in. I think time freedom, my whole world for 20 years has been around creating time and money freedom, right? And being able to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. I think about in a business sense, it's having the freedom to work on what you want to work on, right? To be able to focus on the needle movers, to not get stuck in the weeds. I think that too many leaders, a lot of leaders think about delegation as like giving away tasks, and it's not about transferring ownership, or it's not about just delegating, but transferring ownership with clarity. And so I think that time freedom, there's so much that we're going to talk about, but it really creates space for you to be able to major in the majors and not get stuck in the weeds as a business owner, and have more time to work on the business versus in the business.
Yeah, and I'll add, through EOS, we teach visionaries how to live their best life. So for me personally, though, I'm right now at my in-laws in Phoenix, visiting my in-laws. So the freedom to me is being able to enjoy the other parts of your life besides just working in the business. So I think that's the biggest challenge, taking a vacation, enjoying life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm very happy you brought that up. I think in terms of how you spend that time is what's going to be most impactful for both yourself as a leader or your team in order to prevent things like burnout. The more time that you're just putting into things like operational bloat, just going through the motions in your day-to-day work, that's going to consume you and eventually burn you out. And if you can leverage that free time that you have to work smarter throughout your day-to-day, you'll be able to even gain more and more of that freedom to be able to have that restoration so that you're not running in the red at all times.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just everything that's been said, plus it's just, for me, it's been a choice. So time freedom just gives me choices. I could choose to work in parts of the business that I enjoy. I could choose to not work in the parts of the business that I don't enjoy. I could choose to delegate. I could choose to do. I could choose the vacation, or I could choose to work hard. So just having choices is what time freedom means to me.
Awesome. Now, Mike, you have a personal story that kind of really drove home, when your son was in the NICU and you had an important decision there. What are some of the first steps leaders must take if they want a business that runs without them, so they have that time freedom that you just described?
The cliff notes to that: James is doing great now. He's 4.5, he'll be 5. He was born at 1 pound 4 ounces. He was in the NICU for 8.5 months. So for those 254 days, my business was able to run without me in the business, and it ran and still did 7 figures in sales without me there. It took a little bit of dissecting to figure out what caused that, but it really came from 6 principles. And if anyone's listening, you can feel free to write these down, but we now call them the Time Rich 6. But these are boundaries, is number 1, protecting priorities, which is boundaries. 2 is communication guidelines, which is what is the rules of engagement for what deems an email versus a text versus a call. Number 3 is systems, if-then processes. Number 4 are playbooks, the documentation of the if-then processes. Number 5 is team, who's executing those playbooks. And then number 6 is technology. What are the tools that the team is using to execute those plays? So boundaries, communication guidelines, systems, playbooks, team, and tech are what we now call the Time Rich 6, but that's what I installed in the business: to systems to McDonaldify the business, documentation of that with SOPs, having lower wage workers of doers to execute those plays because things were simple, and then having some technology that was used was helpful. So that was the Time Rich 6.
Awesome. Love it. Does anybody else have experience implementing similar pillars in their business?
Yes, absolutely. I think first, in terms of the transition, from going from that holy crap, hitting a wall, overwhelm, like, how can I work any more hours to scale this thing, right? I remember there being a moment where it was like, it started with something as simple as a time audit. I think that was the big transition, and looking at, okay, what are all the things that I'm actually doing right now? And should I be doing them, right? Like, really evaluating, because I think that sometimes business owners, there's like this pride, like, or ego of like, I've got it, or I can do it better, or, they control too much, or they just have a fear of letting go. And it was sitting down and really looking at my calendar and saying, what are all the things that are happening that I'm doing? And could somebody, could this be automated, right? Could this be delegated to somebody as good or better than me? Is this something that really a $15 to $25 an hour person should be doing and not me, right? And really, really sitting down and putting those buckets. And I was like, what are things that only I can do? What are things that someone just like me, if they were trained, and they could even do it better than me, could take off my plate? It doesn't necessarily have to be me. What's something that maybe a mentee, someone who's loyal, positive, coachable, who wants to learn, who wants to grow, could take care of and be around? What can I delegate to overseas team and support? And what could I automate? And it was magic, when that happened, to put that together. And Mike mentioned one of the big parts within that was creating duplicatable systems, right? And really saying, okay, what everything that's in my head, I work with, for over 20 years, I've worked with so many leaders and managers, like, well, it's just faster for me to just do it, right? Because they haven't taken the time to get it out of their head and on paper. And it's like, maybe in that moment, it might feel that way, but that doesn't give you time freedom. And that doesn't allow you to scale, and that doesn't allow you to duplicate yourself. And I think getting real with myself and really taking pride. I had a challenge from someone, and they said, why don't you take pride in being the best teacher of the things in your business versus the best doer of all the things in your business? And that challenge, I think, really changed my world.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And I would also add in prioritization and what it means to you and for your teams. Too often I see teams that have prioritization where their list can just continue to balloon. And then all the way at the bottom, there are things that you quote unquote want to do, but you're never going to get around to. what I've seen be successful for teams that implement prioritization is being able to have it be painful when you have to let go of it. Being able to say, I do not want to let this go, but I need to do these other things, so that you can clear your mental bandwidth to be able to actually focus on them. So when you remove that from your day-to-day thought, not just your time you're dedicating to it, but the mental space, to be able to say, I can't think about these things right now because I need to dedicate all of my attention towards these things in which I have prioritized. It allows you to become much more effective at actually tackling them versus trying to do 100 things at once.
Awesome. Well, Robert, right back at you. You believe small changes can make big impact. What's one change a leader can make this quarter to start reclaiming their time?
Yeah, so I think that everything starts small, and I think that'd be just an obvious thing to state to any leader which is out there. And I'm sure we've all read 100 books. Obviously, Mike has a ton behind him, and I'm sure we've all read a lot of those ones as well, where knowing you have to take that first step to be able to achieve anything. But in terms of actually breaking things down to their smallest components, and then once again, having that prioritization to see what you're going to focus on first is what's going to allow you to actually make that progress that you want to. And when you look at that, the way that I've always approached it with teams is when you lay everything out, see what is scalable and what's not scalable, put them into two different buckets, and then start to focus on the scalable. See, then once you have everything on the left-hand side in the scalable bucket, be able to say, what can I implement within the next day, week, month to focus on first? Get that to be your first priority, and then scale that amongst your team. Having it ingrained in teams to both identify what's working well and identify what's not working well is the first step to be able to actually scale that value within those groups. And once you're able to do that, things then become more effective within your work. So it's either the same amount of input for better output, or lesser input for the same output. And if you can marry those two things together, you're going to reduce the time it takes you to do anything within your organization. So being able to first identify everything that you're doing, then identify what's scalable, then identify what's valuable, and then identify in what time frame you can implement it are the steps that you can do to achieve really the necessary things to push out into your groups.
Awesome. Well, going over to you, Michelle, many leaders think EOS is just meetings and scorecards. How do you reframe EOS as a system for freeing up the visionary to lead at a higher level?
Okay, so EOS, I'm sure everyone's hopefully familiar with it. If not, I'm happy to explain that later. But EOS it's a framework. And I think the most important thing is to just pick a framework, pick a tool and stick with it. A lot of people will take EOS and treat it like a buffet. They pick the L10 meeting or the accountability chart or a couple things. It's a complete system. And the first thing we teach is, what do you want from your company? I'm an integrator, so I work hand in hand with visionaries. So what do you want from your company? You know, what's your vision? What's your goals? What's your values? But then I drill it down into how do you make those come true? And that is getting them in their unique ability so that other people can focus on, getting into the business. So the first thing we do, and I insist that visionaries do, is called a clarity break. So step back, take some time, put down everything that you do in a day, what's important, and then I help them tackle those things and put them on, lists. We have different types of lists. We do IDS sessions. There's so many tools that EOS provides. It's just, sticking with something, even if it's not EOS, and try to integrate that throughout your organization, not just at the high level. You got to drill it down. So
definitely hearing some themes here of making sure people really have a good understanding of their values and how they're spending their time in order to implement these changes and these systems effectively.
Yeah, and I think systems also create predictability, right? And predictability creates freedom. And so something like EOS, which, I think we've been running in our business, our own version for about 2 decades. Like it helps stop running the business on hope and memory and whatever's going to happen, right? Like you have processes, systems, you have the right people in the right seats. And when you pair that with clear processes, it just creates so much freedom in terms of the stresses and anxiety as a business owner sometimes that you're like at 2 a.m. like, oh wait, is this getting done? Is this getting done? Like, and I think about systems, they're not about control. I had someone like, well, I don't want to control it. I'm like, no, it's about peace of mind. And it's about knowing that there's an automation that can happen. People know what to expect. People know what every week, what's going to be expected of them, what we're doing, how we're going to be held accountable. And so they're able to work towards something when they know what's coming, versus being caught off guard. And I think for human beings, that's something that's really helpful and also motivating to know, okay, next time we come, I want to show up with this or that, right? And so it allows for higher levels of performance. And when you're integrating great meetings where you are recognizing and you're going through, people are excited to continue to perform, knowing they're a part of things, knowing they're helping co-create things, taking more ownership in the decisions that we make on how we're going to impact this or how we're going to impact that, because they're included. And so I feel like, EOS does a really great job of having it systematized, written down, a lot of the, best practices that I think business owners have used for years, and put it into a great little package there.
I have several inspired thoughts. I'll just, since Robert, Cathy, and Michelle have spoken, I'll just bring them in. Some things that I heard, if I'm just a listener and observer, is what Cathy said about doing things to get it done versus doing things to get it delegated. So that was a really great nugget that I took for myself, and I hope listeners took that. And I love what Robert said about when he's saying yes to one thing, he's also saying to no to something else. So if he's saying yes to those priorities at the bottom that are getting buried, I'm saying yes to these, I'm saying no to something else, or I'm saying no to those other things, but I'm really saying yes to my priorities. So I love that. I love when Michelle talked about her unique ability, like figuring out what your unique ability is, or I call it our zone of genius, depending on what books and literatures. I like Gay Hendricks, The Great Leap, The Big Leap, Great Leap, whatever it's called. But Gay Hendricks talks about the zone of genius. And it's like, these are the things only me as the owner, these are the things only I can do for the business, and everything else is not my zone of genius. So I have to find a way to get it delegated. And I love what you're doing, Harley, with Workagenics for that reason, is you're plugging in a team of doers that are powered by AI. So you handle the team and the technology and say, here you go, business owner. We're going to plug in a team of doers that are powered by AI to tackle all of this stuff for you. So I absolutely love that. And the last thing I heard Cathy say about the meeting cadence, I really think it's important for anybody that's listening to pick up 1 Minute Manager. If you haven't read it before, it's an oldie but a goodie. But 1 Minute Manager for the goal setting, then the reprimand or the praising to pair with those meeting cadence. So you have the meeting, this is the accountability, and then what are your goals? Okay, we sit down, we figure out goals, and it's like following up from there. I'm either going to reprimand you or going to praise you, and then we're going to figure out your next goal, and I'm going to reprimand you or praise you, and we have this meeting cadence of accountability with 1 minute management structure to it. So excellent stuff. Thank you for the nuggets that I'm taking notes of here. And back to you, Harley.
And actually, Mike, if I can just quickly just add on to that, because that was a great pass off. But when I think where I've seen leaders get into that stage of what is the only thing I can do, it's being very real with yourself, not having the ego to say, oh, I can do this. And then you hold on to too much. So being very real with yourself and your skills and your value, and having that self-introspective assessment as to what it truly is that only you can do, and what it truly is at the value that only you can provide, taking that first step, and then your power to be able to then delegate and then focus will be 10x. But I love that you had that call out there, but I have seen leaders fall into that trap where I'm the best. My ego's telling me that I'm the only one who can do this. And then all of a sudden you start empire building and do all this stuff yourself, and you start to burn out. So I think it's a great call out, and I'm really glad you said it.
Yeah. And I'll add one thing. We see it a lot. It depends on what you want to do with your business. If you just want to work all day long and turn and have a business that just stays stagnant, great, do that. But if you really want to scale your business, you have to learn to step out. So important if you want to scale.
Yeah, one thing we see sometimes is people can kind of on the flip side of knowing what you're good at, where your zone of genius is, people can sometimes feel this guilt of handing off tasks that maybe they don't like doing. They might feel like, well, if I don't like doing, nobody likes doing it. But the truth is, there's a person out there who is eager to do that task for you and might be better at it than you, and it creates a great opportunity. So there's like that flip. You're helping yourself, by delegating, and you're also helping other people get amazing career opportunities by delegating as well.
I hate to rob the mic, but I had a friend ask me this question. He said, what do all superheroes have in common besides Batman and Iron Man? Anybody want to take a guess?
They're broke.
It is. That's the answer. They're broke. So they're trying to be all things to everyone, but they're actually broke. They don't have like loved ones. They don't have family. They're lonely. They have no money because they're trying to be all things to everyone else. So the hero syndrome is actually not a compliment. So being the best at everything in your business is actually not a really great thing.
Agreed.
Great point. Very powerful. Well, Cathy, as someone who helps leaders thrive without sacrificing what matters most, what are some of the mindset shifts that are required to reclaim that time while still being able to grow their business?
Ooh, well, I think we just started talking about one of the things. One of the mindset shifts that I first work on with people is really the belief that you don't have to do it all, right? Because too many leaders do wear busyness like a badge of honor, right? And the real shift happens when you decide that your value isn't in how much you do, but more in how strategically you lead, right? And so we have to let go of being the hero. Like your business doesn't need a hero, it needs a leader. And the best business owners are the best developers of leaders. Because when you're looking at these different areas in your business, I like to, even if you're a solopreneur doing $500,000, right? I work with a lot of $500,000 to $3 million for years. And like, just look at it as if your business is in adult stage. All right. And this is a mindset shift because you launch a business and you're like, I'm going. Yeah, wow, we're going to get there. It's like, what is it? I'll deal with that when I get to that stage of my business. No. The first thing you want to do is I want you to pretend it's 10 years from now and your business is an adult business, right? Because I personally believe that growing a business, building a business is like children, right? Like when you first launch it, it's in an infant stage and it needs you for all of the things. But that's not the goal to be there forever, right? And so there's different stages, that your business can go through. And it's like, how quick can I get it to this toddler stage where it can feed itself or it can do these things, or how quick can it get to teenage stage? But when I sit with someone, I'm like, I want you to think about right now, you are living your dream life. You are living the life of like why you set out to run a business. Because most people, I would say, if not everyone, sets out to run their own business. Some people, they want to solve a problem, but most people go out to run their own business to have that time and money freedom, right? To have that control, but the business ends up controlling them because they didn't start with the end in mind. And so it's saying, okay, it's 10 years from now, I have an adult business. Let's work this thing backwards and go, what does that look like, right? I'm traveling the world with my family, doing all these things. Like how many people report to me? Right? Like, have you thought about that? Is it just one person, your operator? Is it multiple department heads, right? What is your dream structure? And really thinking through that, like, I want a marketing team, I wanted this, and not limit yourself. Mindset, I see, newer business owners in their first, 5 years, like, well, I don't have the money for that yet. Or I'm like, forget all those limitations. I just want you to look at what it could look like. And what's exciting to work towards. And yes, you might wear all these hats right now, but how soon can we get here? And I think that next step goes in really identifying like, okay, what type of partners would I need? What's going to multiply? That's a whole other topic, but just, don't let me just get through this and then I'll think about what it'll look like later. Think about what you want for the future so that we can start seeing what it's going to take to get there. Because with things like, you have at Work Agenda, like there's so many great tools and very practical tools. I don't have money for that yet. I'm like, this is one of the best and cheapest investments to have so many things taken off your plate that you don't need to be doing that will help you scale in less time. And so all of my work is around what does it look like to live a life you love? Like, I want to know what your life looks like. And then let's structure your business to match that. Because sometimes people are building this business and it's not in alignment with the life that they want to live. And so that's a big mindset shift. I think that if you really want to create time freedom for yourself as a business owner, start with the end in mind. And then how do we create the right systems, the right processes to build that business that eventually will give you all of that freedom? I could keep going, but I'll just.
I have a piggyback unless somebody else wants to jump in.
Go ahead. I can piggyback all day long.
A piggyback for me is when I hear this, we've been working with a lot of like blue collar type of guys. We our new hashtag is like white collar systems for blue collar workers. So when we talk about predictability, what we're talking about and what Cathy's saying is like build a business that essentially could be self-sustainable. So we want to think about the infrastructure. For example, the guy is used to taking every single phone call. He's like, how am I possibly going to get out of that loop? So one of the things we don't want to take away that, but could we mitigate like 50 or 60% of the calls? So maybe it's like only the best leads are getting to him, but some of the leads are going through another journey. So we build a form on the website. We build a lead magnet, click here for a $500 off coupon, and then we'll reach out to you to schedule an estimate. So we're just giving the client or the prospect in this case, another pathway so that way we can control and reach out to them versus being reactive and always being on responding to their buying process versus taking them through our selling process and taking them through the journey that we want them to go on. So that when we're saying systems and predictability, I just wanted to say like top of funnel, that's an example. And we just take them on a journey. Maybe there's like a discovery call in there where we have qualifying questions before we ever do an on-site visit. So we're not sending a crew out there, spending the gas, spending the time, paying our people to go do a walkthrough with someone who's not qualified. We can mitigate that, keep some of those resources and save some dollars by qualifying over a phone call before we even get to the house. So these are just small parts of the predictability and the user journey for the client and also for the business. And that's what I wanted to just click on when it comes to systems design. And we could go in that direction, but just plugging in a virtual assistant to buy back some time on administrative, it just pokes a leak. It just like puts a Band-Aid on something, but it doesn't necessarily solve the bigger problem sometimes.
Yeah. Michelle, did you want to jump in?
Go ahead. Go on. Go to your next one.
All right. Well, so the next question I have for everybody is, what are some of the most common traps that keep leaders stuck in the weeds? I think we've touched on some of them already. And then how do you help them avoid those traps? And feel free to jump in if you've got something you want to share.
This is a great question. I think that all leaders, irrespective of where they are in their leadership path, really need to take seriously if they wish to grow. How I've seen leaders fail or the traps they walk into is that there's a lot of enthusiasm, but maybe they don't have the tools, or maybe there's a lot of internal passion, but they don't have the communication to be able to express that and get everyone on their team on board, or maybe they aren't able to build trust for whatever reason. And I think that passion and enthusiasm and curiosity are all traits which are incredibly important for a leader, irrespective of where they are in their journey. But how do you actually channel that for effective communication and scaling out value with the rest of your group? Something that I teach is, how do you align the three major aspects of trust building within your team, which first is what you think, what you say, and what you do. And if any of those three are out of alignment with each other, you're not going to be able to build that trust to be able to have people come on board and be as passionate and curious and enthusiastic as you are to achieving your goal. And with that, you also, once again, have to turn that lens back onto yourself to say, what do I really think? What am I really trying to achieve? And then start to monitor your communication patterns. Am I actually portraying this? Am I saying that? Am I thinking that this is important, but I'm saying that is important? If those are incongruent, that's going. As human beings, we can pick up on that very, very quickly. And then the third pillar of it, which is the most important, is what am I actually doing? We've all heard, do what I say, not what I do, and that's where you really have to have all three of those pillars of communication to be able to run and manage and lead an effective team. Otherwise, people are going to work with you more transactionally versus that pure type of value creation that any good leader is trying to get within their group.
I'll dive in. The biggest trap that I see, and I usually see it on the back end when they're already deep in the trap, is what we call the right people, right seat. A lot of small to medium-sized businesses, they'll build it around people, right? So A lot of them are probably your family and your friends. So what we see is that you bring on Uncle Ted and you find a position you build something for Uncle Ted to do. For example, it's really important to take the structure first, because what happens is you get the wrong person doing the wrong job, and 2 years later we come in and it's really hard to pull that big system, the big roots out of the ground. So important to get the right people in the right seats. And the first thing I always have to do is have them think 6 months ahead. You can't fix it immediately, but you've got to think 6 months ahead. What is this? And don't think of it as an org chart. Think of it as an accountability chart. What functions do I need in my business to be successful? Not what could Uncle Ted do in my business. So we see that.
And when you
start that in the beginning, it's just so much easier. Sorry, Cathy.
Huge. No, I mean, dead on, and I think about when we look at a role, like what are the different things I need for my business to run? And then looking at what attributes do I need in that role, right? Because there are some roles where I want someone who's very outgoing and chatting. I mean, there's all sorts of personality tests, but someone who's out there. And then I have another role where I really need someone who's detail oriented and I need them to get reports and analysis. And I probably don't want the chatty person there. And I remember making this mistake 15 years ago. I hired somebody for an operator type role that required a lot of detail orientation, inventory analysis, and she was fabulous. I was so excited. And she started the job. And I mean, I was getting so aggravated. She was getting so aggravated because all she wanted to do was talk to everyone. And how was your weekend? And how was this? And talk to everyone on our team. And I'm like, do your stinking job. But it wasn't in alignment. And so knowing that for this type of role, this is the type of person I need. And even though she was fantastic and checked all these boxes for our organization, back to the right person in the right seat. She wasn't the right person. She was the right person in the wrong seat. She needed a different seat. And when we moved her to forward-facing, customer-facing marketing and acquisition, client acquisition, oh my gosh, she loved it. She was so happy. Our business grew, and we got someone else in that other job. And, back to what Harley said earlier, like there's someone who wants to do that role, right? Like, and so it's not like, oh, nobody wants to do it. Like there's people who love being behind the scenes. I've interviewed people and they're like, if you can put me in my own quiet office where no one bothers me and leave me with a computer and spreadsheets, I'm the happiest person in the world, right? And that same description for the young lady I had, she wouldn't make it like half a day. She'd lose her marbles, right? So just knowing that we're all wired so different. We all have such different strengths and talents. And so when you can get really clear on this is a role or a position that would really support my organization, what type of person do I need in this role? What type of personality traits? What kind of skill sets? What type of inner, like get as detailed as you want. It's incredible when your brain knows what it's looking for. When you do find it or you do see it or you are someone, you're like, oh my gosh, this would be the perfect person to put in this role, or this would be such an incredible person to partner with that's going to allow us to grow, right? And that could work also for partnerships and organizations, knowing these type of partnerships would really be a 10x factor for both of us, right? And getting clear on what those would be for your business. It's amazing how much growth can happen with just clarity around that.
Yeah, I got two. We'll start with the relationships. I think business owners, the trap that some of them fall into is that they think it's transactional, like it's a today, and they forget about the lifetime value of the relationship. So that's a trap that they fall into. So everything that the business owner is involved in is a relationship. It's a relationship with their team or their talent. It's a relationship with their client or their prospects, or it's a relationship with their partnerships or connectors of people that they're going to be connecting with in the community. So they need to foster and nurture those relationships. It's not about transaction. It's about really their needs are my needs and my needs are their needs. And how can we create a two-way street with all these different relationships? And the best who's ever done that I've ever seen is the late John Ruhlin. So for listeners, you might want to pick up the book Giftology or the newest book Beyond Giftology by the late John Ruhlin to help you just like understand that philosophy. The other trap I just want to lead in with is taking out a calculator and multiplying how many hours a day or how many hours a week someone wants to work. Let's say they want to work 30 hours a week. And let's say they want to work times 48 weeks a year. Let's say they want to take 4 weeks off. So 30 hours, that means 1,440 hours they're going to work for a year. So then they say, how much do I want to make in exchange for this many hours. So for 1,440 hours, let's say they want to make $300,000 divided by 1,440. That means their time is worth $208 an hour. I think the trap people fall into is they say, oh, my time is worth $208 an hour in this case, but yet I'm doing $15 an hour tasks. There's a misalignment there. So just the perspective of what is my time worth, I think is a trap that most business owners don't take a time to think about. And then are their actions aligning with that math? That would be one trap that I've seen.
And EOS has a great tool, Delegate and Elevate. It's the same concepts, different author. Got to figure out what makes most, it comes back to that unique ability, right? Who should be doing what, right? People, right seats.
Yeah, and speaking of the right seats, we had a podcast guest recently who talked about doing like a responsibility auction when you come in there and you have that situation where you've got the family members or friends or longtime employees that maybe aren't in the right seat. There's an easy way to fix that. If you have enough people, or even if you don't have enough staff, if you have that sheet of all the responsibilities that are happening and remove the names and then let people just have like an auction, they can bid on what their ideal, role is and get everyone in the right seat that way. And then wherever the blanks are, that's where you go and you hire additional help, and nobody's like feelings are hurt. Everyone is going to do what they really want to do in their day.
Well, we often find when you take the person out of that seat, they're so much happier. It's kind of like what Cathy said, they don't want to be in that seat. They're just doing it because that's the seat they got. So if you could find, they're going to be so much happier when you pull them out and you give them something that they're great at.
And production goes up.
Yep.
And just to click on it, I want to make sure Jeff Wood said it best. He said, when you're talking about what is the right seat, 3 jobs or you're fired. So when you're clarifying those roles, the 80% versus the 20%, it's like, what is the 20% that drives 80% of the business? These are the 3 jobs for that one seat. And if you can't do these 3 jobs, then you're fired. This is the 3 jobs for this seat. If you can't do these 3 things, then you're fired. That's not the seat for you. So keeping it as simple as possible. If you load it up with 15 tasks, I need this seat to be able to do these 15 things, it's overwhelming and then it's too confusing. 3 things that you're fired for this seat is a great philosophy Jeff Wood shared with me. And you could also model that from The One Thing, which is a great book as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of quickly add on to that, if you put those 15 tasks on and you have that person go in and to your idea there, Harley, of having an auction as to what people can do, but that's out of alignment with what your priorities are, then you also identify the individuals on your team that are not in alignment with your vision and what you're also trying to achieve. And that is another way to say, to Cathy and Michelle's point of, is this person wants to focus on this? That's not my priority. That's definitely not what I hire them to do. Maybe we need to reevaluate either that person or that role, or have some different fungibility into that area. But getting that really, really strong prioritization first as a base layer really allows you to perform those other exercises with a lot more effectiveness.
Last thing, I'm just going to keep throwing out tools. Sorry. In EOS, it's called Get It, Want It, Capacity to Do It, GWC. So you go through each person. Do they get it? Do they want it? But the most important to me is, do they have the capacity to do it, right? Did you put the right financial person in the CFO seat? Or did do they have the capacity to do it? Do they have the knowledge, the skill set? So we call it GWC in traction tools.
Awesome. Well, I've got more questions, and this group could probably go on for about 2 hours sharing amazing nuggets of wisdom. But let's jump to a final lightning round question for everybody. In 1 sentence or 2, I'll let you have a few extra sentences. What's your best tip for a leader who wants to stop working in the business and start working on it this year? Feel free to just jump in if you've got something to share.
Bro, how are you give us 1 sentence?
I was just going to say, who's like trying to pare that down in 1 sentence?
I got 1 sentence. You let go and trust the system.
I like it.
Who can top that one?
Who can top that one?
It all starts with ego. You have to understand what you are good at, what you're not good at, and have a very honest discussion with yourself, so that you can adequately prioritize.
That was a paragraph.
As 1 sentence, there's a few commas in there, Mike. Maybe a hyphen.
There's some M dashes in there.
That is a very tactical, is run a time audit and figure out what you don't have to be doing.
Nice.
I don't have a sentence. My sentence is
challenge yourself. You can do it.
Sentence is a paragraph.
You got a book review.
Know what you want and then go build it. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Powerful. Well, I want to give everyone a chance to connect with our panelists more. We can go around. If you guys have like a website, LinkedIn, or best way for people to connect with you and continue the conversation, please share that with our audience.
CathyChristen.com, and that has links to social media right on there. So Cathy with a C, Christen with a CH.com is the best way to find all the things.
The best way to connect with me is just my LinkedIn page, Michelle Rourke. And if you haven't, I'm going to do the book recommendation traction tool. This is it. So if you want to learn more about this, if you want this book, send me a DM and I'll mail you one. It's the best book I could recommend, especially if you want to do this on your own. Grab that book. So thanks for having me.
You can also find me on LinkedIn as well, Robert Liedtka. I'm happy to connect with anyone. My world is very relevant for anyone who is currently in the corporate space and wanting to make a move, or just looking to see how they're scaling teams. So happy to connect with anybody who's listening.
And I'll give a gift to the blue collar guy. If anybody knows a blue collar guy, betterthanrich.com/GSD stands for get shit done. So betterthanrich.com/GSD. I'll do a no BS call with you, 4 systems installed into your business for you, customized to your business that you could go and do it yourself or hire us to do it for you. But betterthanrich.com/GSD. You will not be disappointed if you're a blue collar guy. I promise you.
Awesome. Thank you to our incredible panelists for your wisdom, your stories, and the actionable insights that you've shared today. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us for this powerful conversation. As a special thank you, we're offering you free access to our masterclass, Delegate to Dominate. I walk through exactly how top execs are reclaiming 15 to 30 hours a week with the right strategic support. If you're interested, you can check out the masterclass and unlock a special bonus offer for our panel viewers at workergenics.com/bonus-masterclass. Thanks again for being with us, and we'll see you all on the next Executive Edge Live session.